to our panel. So I'll invite Kareem, absolutely love this guy. I'm going to invite Kareem to come up and bring his team forward.
Thank you, Nicole. Good afternoon, colleagues. All right, so you will be hearing from a panel this afternoon who will engage you in thought-provoking ideas as it relates to the topic of gender equity and gender-responsive pedagogy. Dr. Lopez has opened the conversation, or perhaps opened your appetite for this engagement. On this panel this afternoon, we have Gavin, and the panelists will be introduced to you in short order. So I invite Gavin to join me here. I'll also invite Natalie to join me, and Tika is supposed to be here. Tika is coming, and I believe Malachi should be here with me. Great. So Malachi is coming here. All right, so I think we can get our conversation started. So I'll do the introductions section now. I am Therese Clark. If you're from Jamaica, some of you may know me. I am the, I hear some yeses. Yes. So I am the Director Principal at the National College for Educational Leadership, or as we call it, NCEL. And we're responsible for training school leaders, educational leaders across the sector to improve the quality of leadership and the quality of education. But I also come to you as a trained educator. And I come to you as a trained educator with years of experience teaching girls. So I taught at St. Andrew High School for girls. Pass me there? Yes. Okay, small world. So I taught at St. Andrew High School for girls, and I taught at St. George's College. Yes, Malachi from St. George's College, right? And I'm sharing this with you because of how important it is for us to acknowledge the experiences that we have as individuals in relation to the topic that we're going to discuss. I also taught at Shortwood Teachers College, meaning that I prepared individuals to become teachers, as we know. One of the things that resonated with me when I was teaching at the high school level is that after teaching at St. Andrew High School for girls for 4 years, I then transitioned to George's. And during a grade 8 class, a student came up to the class, to the front of the class, and he said to me, "Sir, your class is boring." Before starting to teach at George's, the principal, Mrs. Campbell, said, "Mr. Clark, you're going to teach boys, and they're different. Go and do some reading on how to teach boys." Another experience at George's that I want to share as we enter the conversation is that I had a grade 9 class, and I administered a test. I taught Spanish and French. And one of the boys wrote on the test paper one thing: the name of the individual. And the name was Beyonce. How many of you know Beyonce? All right, so I leave that one right there for you to mull. Why am I then interested in this topic, and why is this conversation important? How many of us know about sustainable development? I see a few hands going up. How many of us know about Jamaica Vision 2030? Everybody, wonderful. The core to achieving sustainable development is quality education. Quality education. And we talk about sustainable development goal number 4. And it's one of the reasons why I wear this pin. And individuals will ask, what does this pin represent? Because it has a lot of colors. It represents the sustainable development goals, because I'm a firm believer in quality education, and if we're about quality education, it ought not to be just a concept, but what we do every single day. Because quality education promotes inclusiveness, it promotes equity, and it promotes lifelong learning for every single individual. So with that, I open the floor for my colleagues then to share their name, profession, and area of expertise, and Malachi, your grade level, and what you're about. All right? So over to you. That's it.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Natalie Antoinette Johnson, and I've been an educator for over 10 years.
Thank you.
I'm Gavin Bennett. I'm not a trained teacher. I just actually evolved into the profession after having been in corporate. So I'm a certified public accountant in 3 jurisdictions. My expertise is in business valuations. I'm a professor of accounting and economics now, so you know the transition go dark, we go into corporate, and then right over. I taught at UA in Jamaica, UTech, Montego Community College, so I've never really taught at the primary school level, but that really does not absolve me from having conversations with you, because education is education no matter what level it is.
Thank you. Tico?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tika Pinnock. I'm a PhD candidate here in the Department of Politics at York University. I don't study education, but I study development. And prior to returning to do my PhD, I did work in the nonprofit sector, working with Black communities across the Greater Toronto area. And I suppose of real interest is that I am Jamaican born and bred. Before my parents took me here to the Great White North, which we can critique some more. And so having spent my formative years in Jamaica, also did high school here in Canada, and I think have some perhaps insightful things to share about those different experiences.
Thank you, Tika. Malachi?
Hello. So, I don't know if you can tell, but my name is Malachi. Malachi Wilkins. I was the former head boy of Northwood Primary and Junior High School. I'm going into 3rd form, and my area of expertise is politics and
Thank you, panelists. So, panelists, I want for us to then operationalize certain terms. And the first one is, what is gender equity and why should it matter? Any panelists can take this for us to start the conversation. What is gender equity and why should it matter?
So as we think about gender equity, and as Dr. Lopez also mentioned, we are educators. We chose this field, but this field, we're called to this field. It's a calling. And we oversee the students that are in our classroom. I'm a classroom teacher. Gender equity is making sure that every single student that walks through that learning environment feels safe, welcomed, and has a sense of belonging in that classroom. We are responsible to make sure that the students that walk in our classroom, regardless of how they self-identify, have that joy in our learning environments, and we create that for them.
Thank you, Leslie. Gavin?
Oh, actually, just to echo what my colleague has said, it's just neutrality in which you actually see education. We see, whatever barriers do come in, what they identify as, it really doesn't matter. You just see your classroom as, individuals who come to you for you to invest therein, and it really doesn't matter about the fact that at the end of the process, they would have achieved what you had actually set initially.
Great, thank you. Tico, why should gender equity matter? Why is it important?
I'll start off by saying I think, one, we ought not to see education and schooling environments as separate from the wider society. So I approach gender, or thinking about gender equity, not as just what's happening in the classroom, but the classroom as part of what's happening in the wider society. And so gender equity, I think, is really about what a just society looks like. Not just what's happening in the classroom, but your students are embedded in other systems and norms. And so what does a just society look like where every Jamaican is able to access resources and benefits to create the life that they would like to lead?
Thanks. Malachi, can you describe for us a time when you felt encouraged or discouraged to participate, lead, or to even speak up because of your gender and the expectations at school?
Alright, so I can't describe it based on my gender. Most of the times it would be because of my age. Like if someone would say, no, you're too young to do this, or no, you're too young to do that. But really in cases of gender, that's not really where the issue for speaking in would come in. Because like people would expect a boy to be and all of that. But I am an orator.
Okay, great. So what is it like going to an all-boys school? Well, primarily all-boys school.
Alright, so George has for the past 2 years or 2.5 been an experience. So for the past 2.5 years, the main interest is football, right? And the thing is that when I tell people I go to George, they're like, oh, you play football? I don't really like football. So my main interest, as I said earlier, is politics. So if you ask me, what are the places in Brazil? I'm going to look at it like I'm lost. But if you ask me to name all 50 states, 2 minutes, I'm going to name all of them. So for being at George's, it's like, if you don't play football or act a certain way, they're going to view you as yes. But I'm not going to let that bother me because God knows who I am and that's what I need most.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I just think it's so important that we can't pass over what he just said. I think it's important in terms of the questioning to rest a little bit on what Malachi just said. Because this whole idea, first of all, within the Canadian context, young black boys are always sent into sports. They're never seen for their knowledge. They're not in grade 12 physics, and they're not in grade 12 chemistry. And that translates to who you see in the workplace. And it starts with teachers positioning children. And the second thing is, I hope as Jamaicans, you're disrupting this thing that because he doesn't like football, that somehow we're going to give him some kind of weird name. That has to be disrupted. My nephew almost died trying to play basketball when he came here because he doesn't know how to play a ball, he had asthma, he could swim. So this idea in Jamaican context, that if you're not acting in the gender role, you're suddenly really has to be disrupted.
Thank you, Dr. Lopez. And it's a good segue to the other questions that I want to ask the panelists to comment on. Because I know within our Jamaican context, the curriculum that we offer can be skewed to particular gender. I went to Carnan College Research, which is a co-educational institution. In high school, I loved cooking. I wanted to be a chef. And so I got the opportunity to learn how to do food and nutrition. But then when I came to Kingston, or went to Kingston, some all-boys school did not offer that program. But when you look in the hotel industry, you see a lot of male chefs. Yeah. Now we're proud when the male chefs are winning the competitions overseas and putting Jamaica on the map. So then, why should we as educators, as individuals, or why do we sometimes shy away from conversations about the practices and the experience as it relates to gender equity and gender responsive pedagogy?
So I think we should first, as Doc ventilated before, the historical context where certain professions are feminized and masculinized, right? So engineering, female, and I suppose that's where the fundamental issues are. So, I mean, if there ought to be some policy changes, right, to really direct that as to where it's supposed to go, that's what happens. You spoke, like at Kingston College, for example, you're not going to see home economics and those things because, as I said, it's just the cultural and historical context that actually underlies the whole fabric of our society. So, I mean, we're probably going to have to look, first of all, where the problems are, right, and to address the root causes, because I don't know, who is it a ministerial thing to say, okay, Casey, you have to do WOMIC, or I don't know. So, I mean, I don't know if it comes from a policy level, but as I said, you cannot really dispel the fact that certain professions are feminized and masculinized, and that's how it really is. So we have to look, historical context,
and how do we address those issues that are there. And perhaps the principal now provided that it's within his purview to make those changes, offer home economics, because he said we all need to learn how to cook just the same. So does it mean if it